productivity, winning strategies, and aligning employer-employee goals. If this sounds like something your business could use more of, then you've come to the right place. The Business Mechanic Show with your host, Vaughn Sigmund. Let Vaughn show you how to develop, improve, and jumpstart your business. So now, please welcome the host of The Business Mechanic, Vaughn Sigmund.
Welcome to the Business Mechanic Show. This is your host, Vaughn Sigmund, co-founder of Results Driven Leadership. Once again, it is my true pleasure to have John Karwalke and Eric Van Doornen joining me today on today's podcast. Gentlemen, say hello.
Hello, listeners.
Hello. Pleasure's mine.
Yeah. So today, this all got prompted by me. And it seems like things come in waves. I don't know about with you two, but things come in waves. And the wave in the past week or two with clients has been they're managing a younger group of employees, the Gen Z generation, very smart people. There's a lot of attributes to being a Gen Z. If you're a Gen Z, listening to this podcast today, we're really glad we have you. But if you're a millennial managing Gen Zs, if you're a Gen X managing Gen Zs, if you, God forbid, you're a baby boomer managing Gen Zs, you're going to want to listen to this because there is a lot of frustration and just people being confused, leaders being confused. Or why are this young generation of employees so much more difficult to manage? And we're going to share with you today some tips and ideas that we know work. This is the advice that we're giving our clients. Our clients are coming back to us saying, man, this stuff works. You just taught me something that is really important. We're going to share some of that information with you all today. So, and again, I'm going to set this up and I'm going to turn it over to John and Eric. As leaders, as managers, you've got the task, you've got the responsibility of motivating and driving your team to success. You've got to achieve success. The challenge becomes especially pronounced, and it's happened in the past few years, but I'm seeing it a lot more in the past few weeks, is the Gen Z workforce. How do I lead them effectively? There's nothing wrong with them. They're just different. And it's essential as a leader or as a manager that you understand the tips and approaches that are going to work best with this generation. Couple stats that I put out on my blog. There was one poll that where 75% of managers surveyed out of several thousand said that Gen Z is more difficult to work with than other generations. Moreover, 12% of those managers reported that they had fired a Gen Z in the first week of employment. That's staggering, isn't it, John?
It's crazy, Vaughn. And I don't even know what to say about that. Well, actually, I do in a minute, but I'll let you continue.
Well, and so when let's just get right into it. There's a problem. Let's offer you a solution. Let's offer you some ideas today. So between the three of us, we're going to make this a short podcast today. In about 30 minutes, we're going to be out of here. How to be more effective managing Gen Z. So first of all, I think it goes without saying, you have to embrace and recognize that you can't change a generation as an individual. You have to change you. You have to adjust your leadership style, probably in several ways. And so, John, when you think about how a manager or leader needs to adapt or adjust their leadership style to be more effective with Gen Zs, what's some of the advice you can offer?
Well, I was going to say, first of all, let me just preface it by saying that I think anything that I have to say and that we have to say collectively is going to be a broad stroke brush about a whole generation. So it doesn't always apply. And as much as we want to say that, hey, I don't get these young kids and they're not hard workers or none of them are good workers. I got to say that that's probably nothing that's particular to this generation. I'm sure I'm positive that my dad, who is one of the greatest generation and my first boss, said the same thing about me being on the tail of the baby boomers. Like, these guys listen to crazy music, have long hair and all that. So I think my biggest piece of advice, though, is that rather than trying to change your workforce, because remember, before long, these Gen Z folks are going to be running the whole show. They're up and coming. My son's just graduated from college and he's a Gen Zer, and they're going to be running the show, not us old geezers. So it's not inherent on us to try to make them change to be like us. I think that we have to understand better where they're coming from. And guys, in a lot of ways, I don't think it's necessarily a bad place. That we talk about them being, I guess, fragile and entitled. Well, listen, in a lot of ways, they're a lot smarter, because I think that they're looking at things saying, hey, it's about the results, isn't it? So that if I want to work on my time, if I'm getting the results, when does it matter what time I come in or leave, or what time or where I work from, for that matter? So I think that's something to really take into effect when you look at this generation. Face it, they've grown up in some crazy times and has seen a lot of crazy stuff that, frankly, is the result of our generation's mistakes. But they're looking at this saying, hey, if I can get the results, isn't that what it's all about?
Well, let's talk about how to get those results. One of the things that I've been giving my clients advice on is they need to be more of a coach. They need to be more directive. They need to be more instructional. We've got a generation in Gen Z that, through their schooling, their education, have been taught to pass a test. And so they've studied and they memorized. I'm painting with a very broad brush here, but what is very common, and where a lot of the problem is coming from, the challenge is coming from, is that the Gen Z, and some part millennials, but Gen Z for sure, have been taught what to think, not how to think. And that's where you as a leader have to come in as a coach. You have to be directive. You have to give feedback. You have to give guidance. You have to help them learn to think. They're just not equipped. Again, with a broad brush, they're not very well equipped due to how societally we have raised and educated them. Their managers need to help them develop skills. So it's a more hands-on coaching, not directive. You cannot be, you just can't tell them what to do.
Yeah.
You've got to ask them to do something and then give them the instructions and stand there. And it's almost like the great training you guys did, how to train somebody, tell them, show them, how them do it, give them feedback. That give them feedback's the coaching part of it. And so you've got to be willing to invest additional time, additional effort into coaching these Gen Zs. What else do you think, Eric, that people need to be paying attention to?
Yeah, I think I'd go even further than what you just said there, because I know what we, in results-driven leadership, what we do is, we make sure that they get the feedback as much as they can. So I think in a review process normally was a year long, and you might get it one time back in generation, and we were good with that. And then further, the longer we came along with the millennials, and it was like, hey, let's do it every quarter. Let's do a review every quarter and give them feedback as we went, see how the progress is doing. And today, we are a strong belief of doing things really monthly, to keep them along, keep the coaching process going, keep the engagement going with the Gen Zs. I think that's it's a huge part that this happens to be a best practice, and actually a best result driven piece is really giving them that automatic and continuous feedback as they go. If not, they'll have, as my dad would say, far away eyes, and they'll look at other places. And that's just the way Aspect goes. You got to keep them engaged, because they have lots of talents.
Eric, I was going to say one thing too that you just said, and it just sparked something in my mind, is that it seems like these Gen Z folks, they have to have a vested interest in, well, not only in your company, okay, that's another topic, but in themselves. So, to give them feedback on a regular basis and to listen to them, but as they see that their skills, that their ability to solve problems and find solutions is growing through your guidance, that's how you're going to hook them in, because they see their brand, their personal brand growing and developing. Again, they're getting some results there. So as they see the progress, then I think that the more you can do that, the more you connect with them, and the more you get the engagement with them long term.
Yeah,
keeps the faraway eyes distant.
Agreed. So regular feedback, engage with them, becomes partners with them, and they love feedback. Now, you have to be careful how you deliver that feedback. It needs to be in an encouraging and constructive manner. Watch your tone, watch your aggression. You need to be a lot more supportive, if you will, with this generation. Remember, they're younger, right? They just haven't been through some of the tough stuff that older generations have been through, but that's how we've raised them. We can't change that. That's just the cards we've been dealt. The other thing too, John, this generation is always looking, they're very, they've embraced technology. They've been raised on technology and innovation.
Right.
Yeah, they are used to change and innovation coming at very quick, regular intervals. When it comes to technology, what are some of the ideas that you have on how managers need to embrace that concept and how that might feed the needs of the Gen Z?
Well, I think the one thing I noticed about the Gen Z folks, and again, I'll just speak from my experience, and a lot of that's with my son, is that they don't have the patience for stuff that doesn't work. Okay, so if it's outdated, you've got an old program, or you have an old router in your house that doesn't work, then like a friend of mine has, they're not going to have the patience to just suck it up and put up with that, because they see it as a waste of their time. Because if something takes too long to download, guess what? I could have been doing something else, or I could have gotten the job done quicker so I could get on to playing video games or something. So I think that we really need to be cognizant of having pretty much top-notch equipment in programs in the workplace, so that they don't have to deal with that. And I think the other piece too is, since they were brought up, they were weaned on technology in a lot of ways. I'm going to say from my personal experience that my son is way better. In fact, he's going to college for cybersecurity, so he better be. But there's so much more adept and so much more
savvy.
Advanced.
It just comes to them naturally. So I think that we should be, as in my case, as a boomer, or the Gen Xers out there, listening, and we're millennials, listening to them sometimes, because they might have a better way of doing things using technology. So I think that's goes back to your point, Vaughn, of being partners with them, is not treating them kind of like you're way down here below me. In some cases, you may be above me, and I might want to listen to you. It might benefit both of us.
Well, and to that point, John, I was raised on Word. I was raised on Excel. I've had several companies, employers say, I'm hiring these people, these young people, they don't even know how to build an Excel file. Well, guess what? That's old school technology.
Yeah.
And by the way, they've never had a purpose for using an Excel file. So wrap your arms around that, accept it. You're going to have to teach them how to use some of the old school technology that's been around since the 80s in its basic form, right? Excel's advanced from Lotus 1, 2, 3, which is what I learned back in the late 80s.
Word perfect.
Word perfect, right? Now we're really giving our age away. But understand, they're just not going to know some of this technology because they have not been in the business world. And secondly, they haven't had to use it in college. They've used apps. That's what they've done. There's been so many things that figure things out for them. They don't have to figure out these formulas to build spreadsheets to track information. They've got a different approach to it. Find out what that approach is. It may be a better approach, to your point. So sometimes you have to let loose. What?
Having more computing power in the palm of their hand than what put the first astronauts on the moon. So again, it's just amazing the orientation from where the perspective we're coming from and they're coming from. So we have to work with that.
For sure. And by the way, this comes up in every podcast, but every Gen Z has a DISC profile. And again, we can't lump them all into one big basket. There's going to be high Ds, there's going to be high Is, S's, and C's. And if you yourself don't know what your DISC profile is, please click on the link in the show notes, get it for you. It'll help you start recognizing some behavioral patterns, behavioral styles. You knowing you is the first big step to being a much more effective leader. Take advantage of not only getting this report, but then scheduling time with one of us for us to go through it, explain it to you, and how to use this, how to take this $125 tool that we're giving you for zero. The real value comes from the conversation, not from the report. The report's nice. It gives you a lot of information, but that's only a fraction of the picture. Schedule a call with one of us. Let us go through and teach you how to use this, what it really says, what it really means, how to go utilize this information. So that being said, the other thing is I've noticed, and Eric, I'm interested, you've got some young folks living with you.
I do.
Continuous improvement and development. I find that they are thriving to learn. They have a deep desire to learn. What are your thoughts on how managers or leaders need to adjust their style to feed that? You know, you're a big continuous improvement guy, Eric. To what can they be doing specifically? In fact, we talked about one at 7 o'clock this morning with our first appointment.
We did.
What can leaders be doing to help the up and comers learn and continuously improve?
Yeah, I think there's a thing, we'll call it, just came to my brain right now, is insatiable appetite, right? They just, you got to keep on feeding that and keeping the hunger there. Because I think to learn and to be continuous improvement is to keep that, never deafen that noise. That noise is a good noise when they, want to continue to grow something, when they want to have a new idea upon whatever it is that you want them to do or not do, they'll come with the idea. So give them a seat at the table. Inclusion is first, right? You include everybody and allows them to, the diversity will be actually thrown right with that inclusion. But the diversity piece keeps everyone on the even keel, because I think there's a piece here with Gen Zs is, I think it used to be kind of a pyramid effect where you had the CEO, you had the levels of management. And today with the Generation Z, it's more of a flat plane, I think, where everyone is kind of in that associate level, which we're all associates. Mm-hmm. We all have a voice. We all have a part. We're smart enough. We have technology. Be surprised what comes through on those type of levels and training. But, to continue people thinking and continuous improvement, I think that's where I see the future, if not right now, especially with Generation Z. They're so smart, so they always have an idea of what could be better. And if not, they'll tell you, you just got to listen. They'll tell you.
Well, but let's talk about teaching them. And one of the approaches I know works really well, I've suggested this with several clients, is have a weekly lunch and learn, or schedule yourself as a leader to be available an hour a week to come in and just discuss things, help them work through problems, discuss challenges, learn from you, be the sensei, be available to them. When that's that kind of learning and that coaching and that hands-on and that care go miles with this generation. And all you have to do is schedule a friggin' hour a week, or, bring lunch in for an hour, invite everybody in, have your Subway sandwich, talk about, what's your biggest challenge? What's your biggest challenge? Here's the problem of the day we want to talk through. What are your ideas? What are your ideas? Go Google lunch and learns. Go Google office hours. You went to college, your professors had this. Just be available to them to discuss topics, challenges, subjects, and help them learn continuous improvement. Secondly, that's building a relationship with them that is very important. Always remember, people work with people, work for people, not for companies. And so, folks, they work for you. They don't work for Acme Amble Corporation. So, John, you have any experience with mini or kind of informal training sessions with groups of employees?
Well, yes. One thing that we did at one of the companies I worked at was we used to bring a group of, and we had a cluster of stores in this one particular market, and we brought in all of the assistant managers. Okay, so this wasn't the store managers, and again, these are retail stores, and we had 4 brands at the time, and we had, I don't know, maybe 6, and we had invited a couple from neighboring cities, if you would, to this luncheon where we just buy pizza, and it was hosted by myself and the district manager, and we had these folks that were the second in command, so they weren't even the boss of their particular units, but this made them, elevated them in terms of their stature, because they got invited to the lunch with John, and they came in, and we talked about a variety of issues, okay, ranging from, how the training program was going, to the service in the stores, to product, to what was going on in the world. And it really was a great time to break bread, but it made them, to your point earlier, Vaughn, it made them feel like partners. So whether or not they were at that point, they were still young in their careers, they were still learning, they were heard. And honestly, God, they had some really good ideas that we were able to incorporate into the culture of the district and the region. So I think that again, I think that if you can find an opportunity to do those sorts of things with your folks, you'll learn a whole lot. And one thing about this latest Generation Z is they really feel like they should be partners from day one. So I think that being able to do this will absolutely stroke them a little bit in their feelings, and they'll feel that sense of self-worth, and enhance that. But also it will help you get information from them and have that two-way conversation and gain trust. And isn't that what we're trying to do at the end of the day? Because these folks they're not the generation like we were, where you put in your time at work for 40 hours and then you got to be off in your life. They don't want to do that. They want to have their work job be their personal life. They want it all. They want it all. And I think that this helps to kind of build that and help those folks feel like they're attaining that. So I think that if you can find time to do that, I loved your idea. I forgot what you called that, Vaughn, when you said to bring people together. We used to do that sort of thing, and I thought it worked well then. And I think with this generation, it just seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, and you provoked a thought while you were saying that. Manager, leader, listen to this. You might learn something too. During these, you have no idea, you don't know what you don't know. And putting yourself into a position to engage in these conversations, determine the level of intellect, determine the level of knowledge, drive, skill set, understanding. You're going to get an education out of this too, because there's going to be all of a sudden somebody pop up and you say, oh my God, I had no idea. I had no idea you knew all that. And what great information for you. Yeah. Or somebody may all of a sudden start shining that was a dull tool at some point in the past because you did not give them the opportunity to shine. These are the kind of opportunities in time with enough frequency and commitment on your part. It can happen once and never happen again. You've got to commit to it, stick with it. And let me tell you, the longer you stick with it, the more they're going to value this, the more you're going to learn, and more importantly, the more you're going to get the opportunity to coach, mentor, build a relationship, train, continuous improvement. And who benefits from all that? You do.
That's right.
You do. So let's
the next $1 million idea is coming right from there.
Absolutely.
From the fearless Gen Zs, no doubt.
Absolutely. So recap just a little bit. Coach, mentor, include, embrace technology, build relationships, be inclusive, make them part of your team, make them feel feel that they have an equal seat at the table. Great point, Eric. And even, come on, even if some don't, make them feel that way. What does that hurt?
No.
What does that hurt?
It's
nothing. It gives them confidence, and it gives them drive and motivation to work harder for you as a manager or a leader. So I'm going to give you guys an opportunity. We're going to wrap this up fairly quick today. Final points, John.
Yeah. Well, on top of all those things, the one thing too, and I'm going to revisit a podcast from a couple of weeks ago when we spoke about authentic leadership and having a mission statement for your business. These folks are generally very socially driven. They want the world to be better because they're going to inherit it, and they want it to be better once they take over and once they leave. And I think that if you don't have a mission statement as a leader, I mean, you need to have that because I want to say just in general, these folks want to work for a company that is for good as much as it's just for profit. So if you don't have that mission statement, leader, you want to get that, because if you can sign them on to your mission for your company, whatever that is, you got them, I think. And again, do these other steps as well. But is on a top line basis, I would recommend doing that.
Really great point, John. And listen, if you're a manager or a leader and you don't believe in all that, well, guess what? You better get right with the world, because that's where the world is. That's where the world's going. And then until you adjust yourself, again, like we started out, and John said so well, you're not going to change them. You're going to have to change you. And you're going to have to stretch your beliefs and your thoughts. And even if today you don't believe in it, believe me, you get involved in giving and charity and tying them to something that's bigger, more important in life, you'll get it eventually. You'll get a lot of satisfaction out of it. So great point, John. I'm glad you brought it up. Eric, final words.
Yeah, I think final words would be really appreciate the super talents that the Generation Z has. You know, when you've ever been in a situation of any kind of thing technical, I go to technical every time because I get surprised every time when I'm around a Gen Z. They go, "Oh no, just do this. Try this. Why are you doing it that way? Try this way." And I'm like, and I go, I don't feel dumb. I feel like, thank you. I appreciate what they're giving me. And the more they do it, the more I appreciate it. So understand that it's not a bad thing because they don't necessarily want to come in at a certain time. Again, it's a result-driven business.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's a people business. It's a results-driven, and those are the two aspects you have to understand and appreciate your Gen Zs, because they got some superpowers.
Yes, they do.
They do. They do. And you brought up a great point. I want to latch on to, Eric. Just because you work hard, you work 12-hour days, 10-hour days, 6 days a week, don't expect others to do that. And in fact, the big trend right now, and I've got a couple employers that have gone to a huge success, 4-day work weeks. If you don't have to have somebody there, you can extend their days to 10-hour days, 4 days a week, give them an extra day off. They sign up for it. They love it. They're more engaged than ever. And guess what? Productivity's gone up in all these companies too. It's a great idea if you can embrace it. Like, listen, if you have to have somebody there 5 days a week and somebody has to answer the phone, you may need to make some adjustments, if at all. But I mean, if you're somebody that can give this Gen Z generation greater flexibility in their scheduling, just because we've always come in at 8 o'clock in the morning doesn't mean we have to come in at 8 o'clock in the morning. Give them flexibility around that. Give them additional time off. It's very valuable to them. What the hell is going to hurt you? Don't stay stuck in how I've always done it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to. You don't have to. I promise you, you don't have to. So great words. Thank you both very much as always. Huge value. Thank you all for listening to the Business Mechanics Show. We will talk to you again next week. Please visit our website, rdltraining.com. That's Romeo Delta Lima training.com. And if you liked this podcast, please share this. Please follow us. That helps us find more listeners like you to come join us each week. And we would be deeply appreciative if you would follow us and share this podcast with somebody you know and love, you feel can benefit from it. Also, don't forget to take your free disc profile. You'll be glad you did. Gentlemen, until next week, thank you all very, very much.